recap in a flash. We bring the drama, the action, and the twists.
The movie begins with a diver finding an old box at the bottom of the river and trying to open it. At the same time, workers are lowering a large pipe under the river to install it, but the pipe falls to the bottom of the river and hits the diver. At that moment, the box opens, and a very strange wooden mask emerges from it. The mask floats on the water until it disappears. We then see a bank employee named Stanley talking to his friend Charlie, complaining about his boring life. While they are talking, a woman named Tina approaches Stanley, saying she wants to open a bank account and invites him to a party at the bar where she works. However, it turns out she is deceiving him, as she has placed a camera in her bag to film the bank's vault for the gang she works with. At that moment, the gang leader, Dorian, watches the video and begins planning the bank robbery. His assistant, Freeze, tells him they need to inform Nico, the mafia boss, first to avoid trouble. Dorian refuses, saying he wants to rob the bank to get enough money to overthrow Nico and become the new mafia boss. We return to Stanley, who is at the mechanic's to pick up his car and head to Tina's party. The mechanic tells him his car is not yet repaired and gives him an old car to use temporarily. Stanley reluctantly takes the car and goes to the party. There he meets his friend Charlie and tries to enter with him, but the bouncers refuse and throw him out because he doesn't have a party ticket. It turns out that Dorian, the gang leader, owns the bar. Tina arrives and meets Stanley, telling him she works as a singer at the bar and asking why he didn't enter the party. Stanley avoids telling her he was thrown out so as not to embarrass himself in front of her, revealing his admiration for her. Afterward, he leaves. On his way, the car breaks down on a bridge, and he gets out to walk alone. Suddenly, he sees something strange in the river and thinks someone is drowning. He rushes to help, but discovers it's just trash. Among the trash, he finds the mask and takes it home, sensing something odd about it. Curious, Stanley picks up the mask to try it on, and is shocked when the mask, which is enchanted, pulls itself toward his face and glows green. He decides to wear it, and the mask sticks to his face, causing him to spin hysterically around his house. Suddenly, Stanley transforms into a funny clown with a green face. He sneaks out of the house to avoid disturbing the neighbors. While walking, a magical alarm clock pops out of his pocket and starts bouncing. He pulls out a giant hammer from his pocket and smashes the alarm clock until it breaks the floor. His neighbor, annoyed by the noise, comes out to see what's happening. When she sees him, she screams loudly and grabs a gun to shoot him. Stanley escapes, leaping until he lands on the street, where his body flattens like a sheet of paper. He then returns to normal and continues walking down the street. Suddenly, he encounters a gang that tries to rob him. He quickly escapes, and they chase after him until they find him standing and making balloon animals like a clown. Suddenly, he turns one of the balloons into a weapon and fires at them, causing them to flee in fear. Afterward, he goes to the mechanic and punishes him for not fixing his car. The next day, Stanley wakes up thinking everything that happened the night before was just a dream. At that moment, Detective Mitch knocks on his door, asking if he saw a clown causing chaos in the neighborhood the previous night. Stanley is shocked to realize it was all real, but lies to the detective, claiming he knows nothing. Later, he goes to work and asks his friend Charlie where he went the previous night. Before Charlie can answer, their boss scolds Stanley for being late and warns him not to repeat it. While at work, a journalist named Peggy approaches Stanley to ask if he knows anything about the green-faced clown who appeared the night before. As usual, Stanley lies and denies seeing anything, but Peggy gives him her business card before leaving. Meanwhile, Dorian, the gang leader, meets with Nico, the mafia boss, who has learned about the bank robbery plan and Dorian's ambition to replace him as boss. Nico humiliates Dorian by forcing him to hold a golf ball in his mouth and threatens to kill him if he doesn't leave the city within 2 days. That night, Stanley hangs up a newspaper clipping with Tina's picture on it and decides to wear the mask to get closer to her and impress her. He transforms into the clown and immediately thinks of getting money to enter the bar where Tina works. Around the same time, Dorian's gang goes to the bank to rob it, but find Stanley leaving the bank in a hysterical state. They realize he has already stolen the money. As they chase him, the police arrive, forcing the gang to flee. Stanley heads swinging the gang to flee. Stanley heads to the bar in a limousine, throwing money at the security guards to gain entry. Inside, he watches Tina perform and is mesmerized by her beauty, to the point where his tongue rolls out cartoonishly and his heart beats visibly out of his chest. He dances with her, and she doesn't recognize him as Stanley due to the mask. While they are dancing, Dorian's gang arrives at the bar and tells him a clown stole the bank's money. They spot Stanley dancing with Tina and point him out. Dorian orders one of his men to shoot Stanley, but the bullet hits his tie, causing it to fall off. Unnoticed, the tie transforms into a piece of Stanley's pajama fabric from before he wore the mask. Dorian's men start shooting at Stanley, who dodges the bullets and escapes. Detective Mitch arrives with the police and arrests Dorian, suspecting his gang of being involved in the bank robbery. By chance, Mitch sees the pajama fabric, which he remembers from when he visited Stanley's house, raising his suspicions. The next day, Stanley wakes up to Mitch knocking on his door. Panicked, Stanley opens his closet to change clothes, but finds the stolen bank money inside. The money falls to the floor, and Stanley quickly tries to hide it before opening the door for Mitch, who is there to question him about the robbery. Stanley's dog tries to open the closet containing the money, but Stanley stops him just in time and nervously tells Mitch he knows nothing about the money since he's just a bank employee. The detective at the police station reviews the cameras, and when he sees the clown stealing the money, he is forced to release Dorian from prison. At that moment, Dorian speaks to his men and tells them to spread the news in the city that he will give a $50,000 reward to anyone who catches the clown. He also asks Tina to look for him because she had been dancing with him. Tina then goes to meet Stanley at the bank where he works and asks him if he knows where the clown is, claiming she wants to meet and talk to him. Stanley is delighted and assures her that he knows him personally and will arrange for her to meet him at night. After finishing work, the detective, Mitch, and his assistant spy on Stanley because they are suspicious of him. They see him heading to the park alone, and shortly after, Tina arrives and meets him there. It becomes apparent that she has feelings for him. Stanley tells her he has to leave because the clown might show up soon. As soon as he leaves, Tina tries to follow him to confess her love, but she encounters the clown instead. Not realizing that it is actually Stanley, naturally she is frightened, especially when he approaches her and speaks in a strange manner. Suddenly, Detective Mitch and his assistant arrive and surround the area. Tina quickly escapes and they arrest Stanley, handcuffing him. When they search him, Stanley manages to free himself, knocks them both out, handcuffs them instead, and escapes from the park. He locks the gate behind him to prevent them from chasing him, but he is surprised to find many police cars surrounding him, ordering him to surrender. He dons a Mexican costume, starts dancing, and forces the officers to dance as well. He then quickly escapes, removes the mask from his face, and when he notices the police searching for him, he spots journalist Peggy's car and gets in with her. She takes him to the newspaper warehouse and begins questioning him about why the police are chasing him. Stanley is forced to tell her the truth and explains everything about the mask. Before he can finish talking, Dorian and his gang arrive at the location. It turns out Peggy betrayed him by informing them after seeing him remove the mask, hoping to claim the $50,000 reward. Dorian orders his men to hang Stanley until he reveals where he hid the money stolen from the bank. Stanley eventually tells them the location. Dorian then wears the mask and transforms into a terrifying version of the clown. They tie Stanley up and throw him in front of the police station. Detective Mitch finds him and discovers a green mask in Stanley's pocket, which the gang planted on him. Believing Stanley is the clown, he locks him up in a cell. While in his cell, Stanley hears his dog outside the station. Suddenly, Tina visits him in jail and confesses that she used to work for Dorian's gang, but now loves him and knows he is the clown. As soon as she leaves the station, Dorian's gang spots her and starts chasing her. Stanley watches everything from his cell window. While Tina is running, Dorian intercepts her and captures her. Meanwhile, Stanley's dog manages to jump up to the cell window. Stanley grabs the dog, brings him inside, and instructs him to steal the cell keys from the police officer. Once freed, Stanley knocks out the officer, takes his gun, and coincidentally encounters Detective Nitch. Stanley threatens him with the gun, handcuffs both Nitch and the officer, and escapes the station to rescue Tina. At the same time, the city's mayor is at mob boss Nick's bar, conducting a press conference to raise funds for the city. Suddenly, Dorian, wearing the mask, enters and orders his gang to shoot Nick. Nick tries to shoot Dorian, but is shocked to find that the bullets have no effect. Dorian collects the bullets in his mouth and spits them back at Nick, killing him. Meanwhile, Stanley arrives, leaving the detective and his dog in the car. When he enters the bar, he finds Tina tied up with a bomb next to her, set to explode in 10 minutes. Stanley sees his friend Charlie and gives him a gun to evacuate the people from the bar. Before he can save Tina, one of the gang members captures him. Tina comes up with a plan to provoke Dorian by telling him he is weak without the mask. Angered, Dorian confidently removes the mask. Tina seizes the opportunity and kicks the mask out of his hand. Suddenly, Stanley's dog appears, grabs the mask, and puts it on, transforming. The gang chases the dog to retrieve the mask, but the transformed dog manages to fight them off. Stanley eventually retrieves the mask from the dog, but unfortunately, it is knocked away by gunfire. Stanley finally grabs the mask and puts it on. Before the shooting continues, everyone is shocked to find numerous weapons pointed at them, causing them to panic and flee. It turns out the weapons are just toys. Stanley then swallows the bomb, which explodes inside him, but leaves him unharmed due to the mask's magic. At that moment, Dorian grabs a knife to attack him, but Stanley draws a cartoonish plunger, which becomes real. As Dorian approaches, Stanley uses the plunger to flush him down into a water basin, pulling him underground. Stanley removes the mask and walks with Tina to the bridge, where she takes the mask and throws it into the river,